What is the difference between empowerment, awakening, and realization? We're going to go into these three terms in today's video. I'm going to give you some defining characteristics of all three of them and some examples. And let's just break this down. What are these terms that you keep hearing all over the place? So let's start with empowerment. When we are not yet at the stage of empowerment, where are we? We're in victim consciousness. What does that mean? It means that we believe that everything is outside our control. We believe that people do things to us. We believe that events happen to us, and we believe that we don't have any power or control of the situation. So, as an example, many years ago, how many years ago now? About 27 years ago, I was experiencing depression and chronic anxiety. And during that time, I had not yet stepped into empowerment because I allowed my thoughts to control my life. I allowed my thoughts to dictate as to how I felt that day, and I didn't know how to control it. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. These are just all stages that we all go through. And so there's no judgment about any of these stages. I'm just here to help you understand what the three stages are. And so then what starts to happen, usually people go to therapy or do some sort of education, or they meet someone, or they have some insights. Usually it's therapy. And they realize that they can be responsible for their own life. They can take responsibility. They can step into that place where they are responsible for their own lives, no matter what the circumstances around them, no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone does, that they're responsible. And once they realize that they are responsible, then they can take control of their lives. In fact, my book that I wrote some time ago, Mindset Dominance, was all about how do we use the mind to control our thought patterns? How do we not be a victim? How do we step into that empowered state? And once we step into that empowered state, it's a really beautiful state to be in, because we realize that we have all the power within us to react in any way that we want to. So even if events happen, that the way we respond to that event and the way we react to that event determines whether we are empowered or disempowered. So that's the first stage of evolution, which is the empowerment stage. And as a hypnotherapy clinic owner, many of our clients, they come to us because they need to step into that empowerment stage, because they feel disempowered, they feel helpless, they feel hopeless, they feel stuck, and they don't know how to get out of it. And it's all about taking responsibility for the way that you feel, noticing your thought patterns, and stepping into that state of empowerment. Now, what actually happens next is quite interesting, because empowerment is all about taking control. And the next stage, which is the awakening stage, is all about letting go of control, which is really quite a paradox, because at that stage, when you're feeling disempowered right at the very, very beginning, you actually almost feel like you are in control so that you can get your life into order. But then once your life is in order and you're still not satisfied and you're still not happy, we start to hit into the awakening stage. And the awakening stage is understanding that there is something more than me. Now, during the last few years, where we've had the pandemic and we've had coronavirus and so on, you hear a lot of people say, oh, they're just sheep, they're asleep. Well, that's not a really nice way to talk about anybody. But what they're sort of referring to is that people are not aware that there is something more than them. But rather than alluding to some evil forces or evil power, what I'm referring to when I'm talking about awakening is awakening to the realization that I'm not alone, that I am part of the universe, and in that universe is way more than I can possibly imagine. That I have angels, that I have spirit guides, that I have a family of light, that magical things happen in the universe when we start to awaken to it. We start to notice synchronicities. We start to understand that there's no such thing as coincidence. And it's really quite comforting to know that there's something more than just me, that I'm not alone in this big world. And so that's the awakening stage. And one of the key factors of the awakening stage, like I said before, with the empowerment stage, it's all about taking control. I'm in control. No one's responsible for my life. I'm responsible for my own life. Well, the awakening stage is all about letting go and actually knowing that you are not in control, that you need to just let go and trust the workings of the universe. That doesn't mean that the previous stage was wrong. It means that that's what you needed to do in that previous stage, was step into your power. And now that you've stepped into your power, you need to stop trying to control everything, because you don't actually have the ability to. And that keeps you in suffering. So when we try and control everything around us, when we try and control the actions of other people or the way things will turn out, we end up having a lot of pain and suffering. And so it's quite a difficult process to let go. And there's a lot of work that's required in this area in terms of how do we let go. And many of the videos that I'm going to be doing in this channel is going to be about all of that. Like, how do we let go of all the things that keep us stuck and keep us dissatisfied with life and keep us unfulfilled with life? So I'm going to be doing a lot of videos on all those things. I'm going to be telling you about the third stage soon. But before I do that, please subscribe to this channel. I have decided to come back into social media after a big, long break. I was somebody that used to show up daily on social media for over a decade, and I really needed to just let go. It was part of the letting go process, and I'm happy to talk about all of that and be really real with you in terms of what actually happened with me and why I needed to let go. But that's another video. And so please subscribe to this channel. Please come into my community, because I'm going to be sharing the journey of the spiritual awakening journey. And so my journey now is, in terms of where I'm at, is now that I have awakened to the truth that this is not all there is, that there is so much more than all of this. How does that play out in your everyday life? And one of the things that I'm good at, because we've all got superpowers, but this is my superpower. My superpower is that I can actually break very complex issues into the very simple, so that you can understand, you can digest, and you can apply some techniques into your everyday life. So the third stage is, so we've had the first stage being empowerment, the second stage being awakening, and the third stage is realization. What is realization? Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not at realization yet. Now, that is actually the goal of every soul, is to move towards realization. Generally speaking, it takes many, many, many lifetimes to actually do that. It's not something we can achieve in one lifetime for most of us, because there's a lot. So what does that mean in terms of realization? I don't really know, but this is my perspective and my opinion in terms of what it means. Realization, in my mind, means when we become one with God, when we are, I am that I am, and I am that I am part of the source. I am that I am God. I am that I am, and we get back to where we came from. So we get back to exactly where we came from. As an example, when you look at Jesus Christ, he was an ascended master and he had a fully realized life. That means he went back to where he came from. And so did other ascended masters that walked the earth. And so my stage, in terms of where I'm at the awakening stage. I hit that stage a few years ago, and it's a huge process. Just getting through this stage in terms of how we look at ourselves in the world, how we live our life, the choices that we make to really bring peace into our life, to let go of the stress, to let go of the dramas, to get off this treadmill that never seems to make us happy, and to live a life of peace and fulfillment. And so subscribe to this channel, because that's what it's going to be all about. It's going to be about connecting into your authentic self, awakening to the truth, and real tools and strategies as to how we get there. Sending you so much love.